It did happen. It was reported before the new EU tariffs came in to effect that Tesla will raise the cost of their vehicles once the new EU tariffs against Chinese electric vehicles are confirmed. They did actually do that. It did happen. And Tesla, in the past few days, have made the Model 3, for example, more expensive. Quite a bit more expensive, actually. So what bothers me, though, is that the only person losing out is the consumer. It's you and me, really. I don't own a Tesla, though. But nobody else here wins. Nobody at all. So Tesla manufactures the Model 3 for the European market at its Gigafactory in Shanghai. That's in China, if you didn't know. This factory, also known as the Giga Shanghai, is producing the Model 3 vehicles that are exported for various markets, including Europe, since early 2020, if I remember right. So Tesla obviously have had to raise the price of the Model 3 in Europe because of these taxes. It's an American company, clearly an American design, American owned, but they build it in China, ship it to the EU, you're going to get taxed on that. So they were told they were going to have a 20% hike, I think it was 20 point something percent, when they import a car from China. They are going to be building the Model 3, the new one anyway, from its Gigafactory in Berlin, but it will also lower the price when they do that. But before they do that, it's a Chinese vehicle, and it's a Chinese. It's going to get the Chinese tax. But I guess this will depend on the amount of competition on the market at the time. So when they start making it in Europe, depending on the competition and how much they need to try, just like all brands, especially Tesla, they will fluctuate that price up and down if there's not much competition. And if there's not much competition, they'll keep it high, I suspect. So the price went up 1,500 euros or about 1,600 US dollars when they basically said this new tax is in place. Not 6,000 or 7,000 euros, which actually it should be if the customer is going to be absorbing that full tax hike for Chinese EVs. So that's quite admirable, really. Tesla will be producing the Model 3 and then also the Tesla Model 2, which is not called the Model 2, as I always say. They haven't said what it's called yet, in Germany for the European market. So it's going to be made in Germany, sold to the rest of Europe, and they'll be making that in the next 2 years, in the next 24 months, which will lower the costs and make the shipping much speedier for customers. And it takes something like a month, I think, about 4 weeks. I guess it depends where in China, but from, like, say, Shanghai to Holland, it's like 4 weeks to get cars, a ship full of cars from there to Europe, and then probably something like a week or maybe a week and a half on top of that when you include port time, when they drive it in and park it for a day or two and check it for bugs or something. So Tesla do believe, and they've said this for years, that production should be local. It isn't a surprise that they're going to move their Model 3 production back to Europe. I mean, they could have expedited it slightly. That could have been a bit advantageous for them. But the new tax hike of another 20% on top of their existing 10% means that there is now an incentive to speedy things up, I think. Which, in turn, don't quote me on this is just speculation, that actually might possibly expedite when we see the new Model 2 in Europe, or it might influence the deliveries, so we might start seeing them earlier than we would have otherwise. So there are videos talking about Tesla's success and saying that Tesla's sales are falling a lot, but they aren't. They just aren't. Even if they sold 3 million vehicles last year and they sold 2.99 this year, you would just say there's a little bit of fluctuation, but it's not like they're falling. They've literally had more success than pretty much any other car company in the past 20 years, year on year. Tesla have done incredible. I've made a video on this, an actual specific video dedicated to the subject. I think now, in 3 days, they make something like the amount of cars that they made for the whole of 2014 or 15, I think it was, or 16. I can't remember the exact figure, but it is astonishing. They sell so many more cars. For those of you that are new, I'm Ben Alexander, and I make EV news videos every day. There are all sorts of videos coming, and my last one was about BYD, if you didn't see it, and how much I apparently hate BYD. Apparently, it's different to usual, really, because it was a bit of a ranty video, and I'm basically responding to one comment, a single comment, but a comment that I feel like I see quite often, and it's just written in different ways. Feel free to check it out. It will be on one of these 2 cards on the screen now.